and welcome to another episode of the Stitch Sessions. This week we're going to tackle something cute and quick. We are going to crochet a scrunchie. They're back in fashion again, and I can't believe it. This was an accessory that was quite popular in the late 90s, and I thought it was gone for good, but here we are again. The scrunchie is back in style, and it's a fabulous project for crocheters that are starting out and want to add some extra accessories to their wardrobe. Really quick, super cute to make, and you just need basic stitches to do it. So we're just going to jump right into it this week and get all of our materials together and jump right into doing our crochet scrunchie. I'm actually really looking forward to it this week because we're going to use some of this wonderful Bernat velvet yarn. It can be a little bit challenging if you're a newer crocheter, but once you get the feel and are comfortable looking for your stitches, it's such a lovely yarn to work with, and it creates a beautiful effect and a lovely texture. So I can't wait for you guys to jump into it. And by the way, if you're new to the channel here and you haven't already subscribed, I hope that you will do so. We upload a new video every Wednesday morning, and I love having you guys come along on my crochet journey, and I love sharing my joy of crocheting with you. So without further ado, let's grab all of our materials and let's get stitching. Okay guys, here's what you're going to need for your scrunchie. You're going to need a pair of scissors and a darning needle, as always, to snip off your yarn and sew in any ends. For this project, I am using this beautiful velvet yarn that was gifted to me by one of my crochet students. And this is, I believe, the Bernat baby velvet yarn. And this is a great example of if you are new to crochet, I would not recommend you using this yarn. That is why my student gave it to me. It is a bit tricky to see your stitches if you're still a little bit inexperienced in crochet. I would definitely recommend sticking to the acrylic yarns or wool or something that is a little bit easier to see. And also I would recommend staying away from the variegated yarns. Self-striping yarns I think would be okay, but if you're still really new, you want to give yourself some time to get used to stitching the different types of stitches and the feel of those stitches. Because when you do graduate to using these types of yarns, feeling your way through finding the stitches is what's going to save you. But I'm a little bit more experienced, so I am going to use this fabulous baby velvet yarn because it does feel so beautiful. So that's what we're going to use. And it is considered, this is probably considered a medium 4 weight yarn. And so for this project, the hook I'm going to use is a 5.5 millimeter hook, also known as an I or a size 9. You can certainly use a 5 for this, but I want the stitches to sit a little bit more relaxed and loose. So that is why I'm using the 5.5. Okay, so as you can see, I already have one made here, and I used some leftover sparkle yarn, which came out so lovely. And for those of you that remember seeing my sunflower hot pad video right there, you will be quite familiar with how we're going to make this scrunchie. It's basically the same technique. I'll also leave a link for that particular video down in the description box below if you are curious to make a hot pad using this same idea. So it's actually quite simple and wonderful for beginners to practice working in the round, and you'll have something really cute and ready to go. So let's get started. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to begin by placing a slip knot onto our hook. And you can use whatever method that works for you. Whoops. Let's try that again. So this is how I like to put a slip knot onto my hook. I just place the hook in that way, yarn over, and pull it through, just like that. Okay. I forgot to mention the most important tool you're going to need in this tutorial, and that is a hairband. So this is just a nice plain black band. You can find these most of the time at the drugstore, Walmart, any place like that. and it has this fantastic stretch to it, and that's what we're going to work around to create our scrunchie. So you can see here it's got some stretch, and that's because I worked around a hair elastic. Okay, so once you've got your slip knot on your hook, we now want to take our hair elastic and we're going to proceed to single crochet around this band. And for those of you that saw the wreath, the all-around wreath we made, this technique will be very similar to that. And it's this video right here. And of course, I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below because these techniques are very similar, and it might give you some cool ideas on other projects you can do. So here we go. We're going to take our hair elastic and we're going to place our hook through the middle space, and then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop just like that. So see how now we're trapping the elastic band in there? That's what we want. We're then going to yarn over and pull through both loops, just like that. And now you've officially single crocheted your first stitch onto your hairband. So we're going to do that again. You will take your hook, place it into the center space. You'll then pull up a loop so that you have two now on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through both loops, just like that. Okay, and that's what we're going to keep doing all the way around the band. Okay, so you're single crocheting and you're trapping that band within your stitches. Okay, I go into the space, I bring up a loop, I yarn over, and I pull through two. Okay, now, so I'm going to leave you to do that all the way around here, and I will meet you at the end because I just want to kind of discuss a couple things before we finish off our first round. So the number of stitches will depend, again, on how tightly you crochet. I would consider myself a medium tension crocheter. So I'm not too tight, but for this project, it doesn't really matter, but it will depend on how much you would like your scrunchie to have this effect, okay? So go ahead and single crochet all the way around until your band is completely covered. Okay, so I am just finishing my 30th stitch, and you can see that that brought me all the way around. Love how that velvet came out. Now, you could go, okay, I'm done my first round. But the thing is with these hair bands is that they do stretch. So you see that? You can see some of that black coming through. And of course that'll happen. But these hair bands do tend to kind of stretch out over time. So you want to make sure that the stitches you place around will also work and have a little bit of give with the fact that it will stretch out over time. So I am going to squeeze a few more stitches in here. So see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of pushing these stitches down just to kind of snuggle them into each other. So I have 30 stitches. I'm going to see, believe it or not, if I can squeeze in 10 more stitches. And that is just going to give me a little bit more allowance that over time, as this elastic stretches a wee bit, it'll kind of work with it. So what I want to do is I'm just kind of pushing these down and snuggling them closer together. So see, that creates a space. And now I'm going to do another 10 more and see how I feel about it. I mean, you may do another 10 more and go, I'm not that happy with it, and take out a few. Or you might go, wow, I need actually another 10. So I'm going to do 10 more here and see how I feel about it. Okay, so I'm just placing my additional 10th one in there. I just made it. So once you see it starts to kind of buckle, then you know it's a bit too many, but I'm going to keep my extra 10 and I'm going to stretch these out a bit. So there we have it. We have something that looks like this. So your band should be completely covered. Okay, and now if I turn my work over, I can see that's the top of my stitches there. Now for this project, your stitch count is not really important because you're working around an item, a base item like a hairband. It's just basically covering the hairband, and also because we're using a basic stitch, we don't have to worry about the stitch count. Okay, so I'm just going to move these down so they're a little bit more evenly snuggled in there. So it'll work a little bit more like that. Okay, so what we want to do when we come to the end of our round, and we're happy with that, we're going to slip stitch to the top of the very first stitch to join. Now, for those of you, if you are using this velvet yarn, you want to turn your work so you can see the tops of your V's here, just like that, okay? So we want to find our very first one, and if you find it a little tricky, just find where your tail is here and pull it like that. So then you can see, aha, there's where that first stitch went in. And so that is my very first stitch. So I'm going to place my hook there, and I'm going to slip stitch to join. Whoops. Just like that. Okay, so now round one has been completed. It's closed in nicely. We slip stitch to join. Now, this little tail coming up here, I'm now going to work over it over the next round, and it will completely disappear. If you find that that's a bit challenging for you, you can always just sew it in at the end, okay? So round two, here's what we're going to do. We're going to chain two. Now, a lot of times I will chain three, and the reason why I do that is because we're going to be using double crochet stitches now for round two. Depending on the project, if I feel that I need them to snuggle in a bit, I'll only do chain two, but most of the time you'll see me do a chain three to begin a new row of double crochet stitches. But in this case, I'm doing a chain two. So in case you watch any of our other videos and you see me do a chain three, there's no particular rhyme or reason, just the odd time I will do a chain two. So now, right back into that stitch we slip stitched into, we're going to place another double crochet. So again, I'm using the velvet here, so I'm just going to stretch my work a little bit. And this is basically where I slip stitched to join. So I am going to yarn over and then insert my hook into that same stitch. I'm going to try and trap my tail in there as I yarn over and pull up a loop. Okay, you're now going to have 3 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over, pull through the first 2 like you normally would do on a double crochet, and pull through the last 2. So that technically is considered an increase stitch because we have stitched 2 stitches into the same base stitch. So remember, the chain 2 will count as 1. So that is what we're going to do for all of round 2. We're going to place 2 double crochets into each and every single stitch around. So if you started with 40 like I did, you are going to have 80 stitches at the end. Now, the beautiful thing about something like a scrunchie is the stitch count is not a super big deal. So if you miss one here and there, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so let's do a few more so that you can get a better feel for this. So I'm going to just find my next stitch here, which is right there. And some of you may be going, oh man, I can't see much in this velvet yarn. But again, that's why I recommend for beginners, maybe just wait before you jump into using this yarn. But I'm pretty experienced, so I can see my stitches right there. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook. I just want to trap that tail in there. And I'm going to pull up a loop. 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. So that's my next double crochet. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and do another double crochet. So remember, we're doing 2 double crochets inside each and every stitch all the way around. So essentially we're doubling up the number of stitches we have. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to find my very next stitch, which is, so if I pull my work, that one's already been worked into. So it's going to be this one right here. Pull up a loop. There's one. And then I'm going to do the second one in the same stitch. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and do a bunch just to work over this tail, because I'm worried that it might be distracting to some of you. I'm going to work over this tail, and I'm just going to come back when I'm free and clear of that tail, and hopefully that's going to give you a little bit more of a clearer look as to where I'm placing my hook. Okay, so I've worked over my tail, and I've done 2 stitches into each stitch, and you can already see that it's buckling, which is exactly what we want to have happen, because that's what creates this really pretty ruffled kind of look. Okay, so I've gone over my tail, so hopefully you guys can see a little bit clearer. I'm going to just do this one more time so you guys can have a clear picture as to where to go. So hopefully you can see right there that that is my next stitch, and I am going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and place a double crochet stitch. And now I'm going to do another double crochet stitch right back into that same stitch. Just like that. Okay. And that is what you're going to do for round 2. And that is the main pattern. So go ahead and do 2 into each stitch all the way to the end, and I'll meet you back here. We're almost done, believe it or not. And we are so close to the end. Now, do you guys see that? That is typically what we call a false stitch, because that is where we slip stitch to join and then created our chain 3. But because I really want to snuggle these stitches in, I am going to work into that. And also because we don't really have to worry about keeping our stitch count super even. I'm going to do one more into there. One more double crochet. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the very first stitch I worked. So I'm actually going to skip over this chain 2. So usually we would find the top of the chain 2 and go in there. But I'm actually going to find the very first official stitch, which is right here. And I'm going to slip stitch to join. And I have good news for you guys. We are finito. You've done your very own hair scrunchie. So just a little something here. Now you can see how pretty, I just love how it does that, and it's got this great little ruffle happening. Now, when I worked on this one, I actually did 3 rounds. So I did round 1. I think this is the front here. Oops, no, that's the front. So I did round 1, which was our single crochet round. And then I did round 2, which was doing 2 double crochets into each stitch. Hopefully you can see that there. I know the yarn is dark. And then I proceeded to do a 3rd round with the same technique. So hopefully you can see that there. There's 2 stitches into each stitch. And so the more rows or rounds you do, the more the work will buckle in like that and create this really pretty ruffle ripple effect. So for this particular yarn, it was considered a medium size 4-weight, but it was really on the thinner side. So I actually did 3 rounds of this. So that way it just made it a little bit more substantial. With this one, you can see it looks a lot smaller. I did start working a 3rd round. I just found that because the velvet sits differently, it didn't ripple in the same way that an acrylic yarn would. So I decided to keep my particular scrunchie to 2 rounds only, and that of course includes the single crochet round. So for me, I am going to be finished. I am going to snip off my yarn and then weave in that end. But for those of you that do want to do a third round, I'm just going to take you through it just so that you have that option, okay? So you would begin round 3 the same way you began round 2. So again, this is completely optional, okay? So you will chain 2, and then you'll go back into that same stitch. So you can see it a little bit easier now. And we're going to double crochet into that. So the same pattern will apply for round 3, 2 stitches into each stitch, okay? So now we will be doubling the stitch count yet again. So 1 double crochet and then go back into there and do another one, okay? And that's it. Now I'm going to do a few more, and I'm going to come back just to show you what it's going to look like, and you might like to opt for that option, or you might see why. For me, I am just going to stop after the second round, but I'm going to do a bunch and I'm going to show you. Okay guys, so I just did a whole bunch more stitches, 2 into each stitch. So hopefully you can see that by doing another double increase, it's really expanding the width of the scrunchie. But now I want you to notice something. It is scrunching up, but because of the kind of the softness and the relaxed nature of the velvet, it doesn't sit quite the same way as the acrylic. Now, of course, you might want to do more just to get a better feel, but I can already tell for me, that's going to be a bit too much fabric, especially because I'm going to be wearing this in my hair. Believe it or not, I am going to be wearing this in my hair. I explained earlier that I am still shocked that these scrunchies are back in fashion again. But anywho, I digress. For me, this is just a bit too much material. So when I used the acrylic, it just sat so much more nicely and it was slightly thinner. So for me, I am going to take mine out and I am going to stop after only 2 rounds. That's why this is super quick. You can do this in the car, on the way to somewhere, as long as you're not the one driving, of course, on the train, on the bus. And so that's it. That's where I slip stitched. And so that is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to snip my yarn here. And we are finished. Super cute and quick. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to weave in that end. And there you have your 2 hair scrunchies. Super great, huh? Super cute, huh? All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, a cute and quick lesson today on how to crochet your very own hair scrunchie. And as a bonus and a little treat, I am also going to be including the written pattern for this. That's right, I am starting to work on those written patterns. I know many of you have been asking me about them, and they're on their way, I promise you. And this one is absolutely free. So I am going to put the link for it in the description box down below. I also have started a monthly newsletter. So if you'd like to subscribe to that newsletter, where it includes some of my crochet class shenanigans, and I always include at least one free written pattern of one of my tutorials. So yeah, so if you'd like to have a looky-loo at that, just click one of the links down below where you can subscribe to that newsletter. So free patterns, free videos, super cool, right? Oh, and don't forget, if you haven't pressed that subscribe button, make sure that you do so. You don't want to miss every time we upload a new free tutorial every Wednesday. And if you think any of your friends might find these tutorials helpful, please do share it. It really helps to encourage me to know that I'm on the right track with keeping up with some of the things that you guys want to see and want to try. So I absolutely love that. And share with me some of your own projects. You can always find me on Instagram at The Stitch Sessions. So tag me in some of your work and I would absolutely love to see them. All right, guys, in the meantime, have an amazing day. Happy crocheting and take care.